Hi, my name is Beth Rabbitt, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Learning Accelerator. Over the last 10 years, TLA has been working to make the potential possible for every learner. And over the last 6 months, our team has been looking back and reflecting our work and projecting forward to the next 5 years. I'm recording this quick overview of TLA so that those of you who have worked with us or have known us will have a little bit of insight into the work ahead for our organization. TLA envisions a world in which each student receives the effective, engaging, and equitable education they need to reach their full and unique potential. We know that this vision looks different in different communities, but we generally think that this is learning that is personalized to the uniqueness of every student, their needs, their interests, their identities, and their context. Learning that focuses on mastery and outcomes rather than the process of schooling, and learning that is developing of the whole child, recognizing that academic success isn't divorced from things like social emotional learning or health and well-being. There's so much potential to make this vision possible. In fact, TLA's work is predicated on the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of individuals and schools working across the country, from the level of family and caregivers all the way up to tool creators and funders who are trying to enact this vision and reality for kids. And yet, we have not made the progress that we've been hoping to make as a sector. TLA, we believe that we are actually hampered by persistent sector gaps that lead to this potential of all this work not actually changing reality for kids at scale. First, we lack a collective understanding and focus on how to make this vision possible. Oftentimes, we don't quite know where we are or where we need to go or who else is on the journey who we might tap into for support. We have significant and persistent inequalities in terms of access to resources, knowledge, tools, and people that are needed to make this possible. Teachers in one setting should not have different access to knowledge than others in another, and yet that happens often. Oftentimes, we have overemphasis in our field on single solutions. We focus on changes in practice or changes in systems, but not both. We also tend to focus on single solutions in ways that lead us as a sector to act competitively when we actually need to be acting collaboratively to drive change. And then finally, there's significant fragmentation and disconnection across the field. We oftentimes work in silos with redundant effort, failing to learn from one another and to bring our capacities together in complementary ways. These gaps really hamper our efforts. Our public attitudes and teacher attitudes toward jobs are lower than ever. Students are leaving school highly disengaged, and we haven't been accomplishing and seeing the academic outcomes that we've been trying to aim for. This is despite significant investment, not just those people and organizations I referred to before, but actual dollars, public expenditures, philanthropy, professional learning. We must overcome these sector level learning challenges and gaps in our ways of working if we expect to realize the potential of our vision for children. And to do this, we actually have to recognize and mobilize resources to solve for them. I want to tell you a story about what we think it looks like to do this. In March 2020, over 95% of American schools closed, just over a 6 to 8 week period. From TLA's vantage point, working with hundreds of districts, we saw educators scrambling to figure out how to put in place remote learning practices, something we actually knew quite a bit about. There was also a lot of noise and fragmentation of networks, with those who are least connected pre-pandemic even more disconnected from the supports they needed. Because of this, TLA, over a 2-month period, actually led an integrated effort to try to bridge these gaps and bring together the resources of the sector to respond. We offered free and open resources, including training to educators and pro bono support to peer organizations to figure out how to move that which had been in person online. We launched new networks, both across our sector and with other intersector partnerships to create new guidance that was needed. And we raised $1 million to bring together 13 expert organizations to offer pro bono coaching to any leader in the country who needed it. Now, what happened over 9 months? Through this collective work, I want to tell you story of one school leader who actually was able to connect to resources and access coaching through our network. That leader was able to develop a plan for launching remote learning in her school and sustaining quality learning when her children were not able to come to campus. At a district meeting a couple weeks later, that leader brought that plan, and the district didn't have one. And that led to adoption for all the schools in the district, resulting in a large urban district actually developing a plan when they didn't have one, positively impacting almost 100,000 students. Over the course of 9 months, our pro bono coaching organizations created stories like these for over 2,000 schools, reaching 1.3 million students in 41 states. Through all of the initiatives, there were over 48 partners who were brought together to serve hundreds of schools, serving almost 2 million students. And importantly, the knowledge that was being developed was actually openly launched to the field by hundreds of codified strategies and resources and tool banks. This is what mobilizing the collective good of our sector looks like. And this is what we need daily because we're still in crisis. This is TLA's work. We're accelerating individual, organizational, and sector learning to transform K-12 education. I can tell more stories like the one I just told you about COVID, about convening of state leaders to develop open educational resources, about doing the research needed for a funder, but publishing it openly to create a framework for professional learning that becomes a blueprint for the Federal Register and public grants. Acting as a research partner to not just help districts and partners analyze and understand progress, but for releasing work more quickly to inform the work of others. And developing through all of this open tools, framework, resources that could be used in a turnkey fashion so that others can drive their work more effectively and reach more students. How do we do this? The first is we advance an equitable vision for learning at the level of the student, but also at the level of the field. We release research and reality-aligned frameworks and tools. We elevate stories and examples, and we publish a learning agenda to help folks around the sector organize better. We focus on bridging the knowledge and the wisdom of the sector. There are so many resources out there for people who want to do this work, but oftentimes it's hard to reach it. We're ensuring decision makers at all levels can access, effectively and efficiently act on the resources of the sector that exists through tools and resources, networks, research and measurement support, and advising. And finally, we catalyze collective change where it's needed. We're sparking movement to build momentum against critical knowledge gaps and shared challenges of the field through ecosystem mapping and analysis, insight and foresight generation, and where needed, mobilization for collective action. As important as the how is the what. Right now, TLA sees educators navigating what seem to be competing priorities for change. How do I respond urgently to close gaps for my students and help them recover? What is next for me in terms of the proximate leading edge for innovation and improvement? What is important moving forward as we look to a future with significant change in climate, both in terms of weather, but also political and social? And how do I prepare my systems and students for that dynamic future? What we'd say is that these aren't competing challenges, but in fact linked ones, and we're working to help make that possible. We're trying to help leaders tackle the urgent by advancing in transformational ways, as well as elevating the criticality and catalyzing action and learning against future challenges. We're deploying it against things that we see folks struggling with right now, from evolving delivery of models, such as doing learning acceleration and implementing tutoring at the core of learning in order to move towards more personalized experiences that eventually prepare our students to wayfind with continuity across contexts in school and out of it. We see the opportunity for new opportunities, such as re-engaging students, not just in attendance, but in authentic real world and problem-based learning. We see opportunities to advance that for workforce and CTE, and eventually think about how will we leverage emerging realities and modalities. We want to help our schools figure out how to respond to the urgency of staffing shortages creatively, while also evolving our roles and pipelines so that we are creating a diverse and sustainable workforce for the future. And we're thinking about broader aims, not just how to respond and build cultures and strategies for well-being in the present moment to respond to trauma and challenge, but also to develop the systems we need to actually understand and comprehensively support kids, ultimately creating integrated communities where we're effectively developing the whole child. Through this work of accelerating strategies and focusing on the right things, we hope to create a world in which there's collective understanding, focus, equitable and actionable, relevant resource access for those doing the work with students, coherent, comprehensive solutions, and a connected and efficient action and effort across the sector. We want decision makers to be able to advance learning with their communities, organizations and communities to implement and advance powerful practices and conditions to drive change, and for the sector to act in ways that are greater than the sum of its parts. By doing this, we believe we can produce a world where K-12 students actually get what they need to reach their full and unique potential. Over the last 10 years, TLA has produced new organizations, developed insights, built our reach to millions of educators a year. We become a trusted partner and resource for decision makers at many levels, from teachers and coaches to school and system leaders, to service and tool providers, to funders and policymakers. Across all of this, we've made commitment to our values and systemic improvement. In terms of who we work with and for, we center learners first, particularly those learners in communities farthest from opportunity and most impacted by systemic inequities and racism. We've sought to honor the priorities, contexts, and stories of schools, systems, and communities, and we collaborate with others as default. In terms of how we work, 100% of our work is openly licensed and freely available. This will continue in the future. We seek to bridge theory with reality and operate as proximately as possible to those on the ground. And we undertake ongoing research and measurement as part of our process with a focus on equity and representation targets. Our team is mighty, diverse, and agile. And our partners are many, including those who have philanthropically supported our work. If you want to help us, you can help us invest in our work. We raise philanthropic funds for mission-critical work in the field. But you can also partner with us in learning. We help partners at many levels, from schools to systems to funders to other nonprofits, tackle gnarly problems of learning as a learning services partner in research and measurement, landscape mapping, analysis and sense making, program and strategy development, resource development, packaging and codification, and network facilitation and knowledge sharing. Finally, you can help amplify and engage with us by connecting to our work, spreading the word, and helping us reach others. We're excited to work with you to make the potential possible for every learner. Thank you so much for all that you do. Reach out, give us feedback, and let us know how we can help.